So we're here because of the flooding here that happened in June 18 through 20. And that new disaster number is going to be 4930. 4930. Any kind of communications you have with staff, both FEMA, MEMA, whomever that it may be, it needs to have 4930 in the subject line. Why is it important? Because it's easier for us to track. So please utilize 4930 in your communications so we're able to track it. Declaration date on this is August 3rd. It'll be important here in a little bit and we'll go over it more. But August 3rd, 2026 was when this disaster was declared, incident period being 18 through 20 of this year. And the RPA deadline is September the 2nd. I'm going to challenge each one of you to get it done by today, if not this weekend. If you're going to put an RPA in, if you think you might put an RPA in, do it. Get it done. Get it done quicker. And we won't have to run any troubles with late RPAs and asking for forgiveness, okay? Contact guidance, as I mentioned before, please use their disaster number on any correspondence, and that way we're ensured that we get information correctly routed. If you have any questions, you can contact your assigned program delivery manager and your assigned state contact. You'll have those people bugging you to death. You will know exactly who they are once they're assigned to you. You can email your questions to me if nobody else. Information's on there. I've got cards. If you want to get a card from me later, I'll be happy to hand you one. Email is best. I'm in the office, out of the office. I'm from North Mississippi to South Mississippi, so I'm all over the road. Emailing me is the best way to contact me. And again, be sure to include the number in the subject line, the 493, the disaster number in the subject line. So declared counties for this one as it stands right now, I'm assuming y'all are in those declared counties, the reason y'all are here. That is Covington, George, Greene, Hancock, Harrison, Pearl River, Stone, and Wayne counties. If you are in a county that was not mentioned yet, you feel like you should be added, come see us. It is not impossible to add a county that passed the declaration, but we need to start working on that sooner than later, okay? So please come see me. Overview, we're going to talk about public assistance and the definition, the applicant, the facility, the work, and the cost. Public assistance defined as a supplemental financial assistance to state and local governments and certain private nonprofit organizations for response recovery activities required as a result of a federally declared event. Where we've got a federally declared event, we've got a number. We went over that a little while ago, so if you're an eligible applicant, you're a part of this. If you're an eligible applicant in an eligible county, you're a part of this. Funding is a cost share of a federal share of no less than 75% of eligible costs. We'll get into the details of exactly how that's broken out here in a little bit, but at the minimum it'll be 75. I do not foresee it going up above 75. We've seen it at 100 with the Katrinas and COVID. I do not see it going up to more than 75. So to kind of break into what the funding is on this, in the end, government agencies will receive 75% federal reimbursement, which leaves a delta of 25%. The state of Mississippi is elected to share that non-federal burden with our applicants for this in this disaster, well, in all disasters. Not all states are the same. Some of them pay them all, some of them don't pay any, but the state chooses to share it with you at 50%. So it's 75% federal, 25% is the non-federal. Split that, that's 12.5%. So once you get your work done and it is defined and it is done, you will get 75% of whatever that eligible cost is. After it's closed and final and we're done and all the paperwork's done and all the bean counters are happy, then we will pay the state share at 12.5%, which leaves, at the end of the day, a burden to our applicants at 12.5%. Okay? If you're a private nonprofit in this room, the state does not pay any of the non-federal share, so you'll be locked in at 75. I'm not sure. Do we have any nonprofits? Okay. The Public Assistance Program assists in the restoration of the community infrastructure result of a federally declared event. It is a supplemental cost reimbursement program with specific eligibility requirements. Reimbursement is bold for a reason. It's important. It's a reimbursement program. You have to spend the money before you get it. We will work with you the best we can, but I have auditors and bean counters looking over my shoulder like you wouldn't believe. I got them on the federal side, the state side, everywhere you can think of, some carrying guns, some not. So we need to make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to be. That way it's protecting it and it's not getting clawed back for any kind of silly reason like we missed one of those I's or crossing one of those T's. So it is a reimbursement program. Spend the money, we will reimburse you. Okay? The FEMA share of eligible costs will be available to the recipient, and we'll go into what nomenclatures there are here, but recipient and the grantee being me for disbursements to the applicants. We have, again, our rules and regulations, how we disperse money, so bear with us. We'll get it to you as quick as we humanly possibly can. Okay? Public assistance is not assistance to local population for damages to private homes, commercial property, and local businesses. So your farms, your commercial businesses, I'm grasping at straws here, your drugstores, your convenience stores, your whatever, that's not a part of this. It has to be owned and under the legal responsibility of an eligible applicant. That's the biggest key, a legal responsibility. Private homes are not a part of this. That's through IA. IA is in most of the counties, I believe, that are in this room, and they can get help through them. So to get into the roles of this, FEMA's role is going to be to manage the program, provide technical assistance, and approves grants. MEMA's role, our role as a recipient or the grantee, educates applicants, and I guess we can call this one of those times we're doing that, works with FEMA to manage the program, and implements and monitors the grants award. So we will be with you. FEMA will be writing the projects. FEMA will be addressing it and doing a lot of the front end work with us besides you, making sure that we're, if we see something strange, if we see something that should be done differently, or if you have a question about how the program works, you can reach out to us. But at the end of the day, we're going to be working with you to get your money back. We're going to be working to you to collect their documentation, your invoices, your checks, proof of payments, what you have you, to make sure you get your money back and identify any damages that are or are not eligible. The applicant, the subrecipient, or the subgrantee, there's lots of different names. It's going to be you guys in this room. They identify damages and provide documentation, manages funded projects. The eligibility pyramid, we'll kind of glaze over this right now, but it builds on being an eligible applicant, obviously, being in an eligible facility, and also the work being eligible and the cost being reasonable. Eligible applicants are the state declared counties, cities, towns, villages within the declared counties, other political subdivisions of the state, Native American tribal governments and tribal organizations, and certain private nonprofit organizations. To be eligible PNP applicant, the PNP must show that it has a current ruling from the IRS granted tax exemption under 501c D-E or the Internal Revenue Code of 1954. Documentation from Mississippi State of substaining that it is a non-revenue producing profit entity during doing business under the state law would be another way. But just if you have a PNP that you think is going to be qualified, get with us. Have them get with us, and then we'll walk through, we'll check, and we'll make sure they have the right documentation and where they should be to be able to claim their status and get into the program. There are two different kinds of PNPs, the critical service PNP. That would be your fire, emergency rescue, medical treatment, power, water, and sewer utilities, communication systems, and educational facilities. So if they are not a water system not falling under the county or the city, they are an organization, a PNP. They would be eligible, and we need to work with them to get them into the program if they had damages. And then also educational facilities. If you had a school that got affected during this flooding event, that needs to be addressed as well. This also goes back to any kind of volunteer fire department you may have in your community. Medical treatment in there, because a lot of your medical services, such as ambulances, are private, but they can be considered under the PNP if they qualify. So just things to keep in the back of your mind. If you see it, then we can try to help if we can. Non-critical would be museums, community centers, library, houses of worship, senior citizen centers, zoos and daycares, etc. These could be possibly a PNP under the non-critical. Just if you have somebody like that that's affected, let us know and let's walk them through, see if they have any kind of eligibility for this. To be eligible, the facility must be damaged as a result of the declared event, right? That's pretty plain and simple. We're not going to fix something that wasn't damaged because of the event. It's specifically tied to this. Just like you would if you had damage to your vehicle in a car wreck. I mean, if it was damaged to the front, the back's not going to be eligible to be fixed under your insurance. So, same thing here. It's got to be a direct result of this event, and it's got to be located within the presidentially declared area. Be the legal responsibility of the eligible applicant and not be under the authority of the federal agency, another federal agency. So it can't be a post office. It can't be a federal aid road. Anything that's funded by other federal funds, they can't duplicate these with this fund. Types of work, we're going to talk about all the categories A through G, including category Z. A through B is your emergency work. Debris removal is A. Emergency protective measures is B. Permanent work is C. Roads and bridge systems. D. Water control facilities. E. Public buildings and equipment. F. Public utilities. G. Other parks, recreation, so on and so forth. We'll get into more detail as we go on. Emergency work categories A and B. FEMA is authorized to provide public assistance funding to emergency work, including emergency protective measures and debris removal. Emergency work is work which must be done immediately to save lives, protect public health and safety, protect and improve property, and eliminate or lessen the immediate threat of additional damage. Category A specifically, we'll talk about it. It's debris, debris removal. We can pay for those debris removal costs. It eliminates the immediate threat to life and health and safety. It eliminates the immediate threat of significant damage to improved property. It ensures economic recovery of the community and provides a benefit of the community at large. Keep in mind that it's debris removal on eligible land, on eligible property. So we can't go on private property. It has got to be on which you're legally responsible to upkeep and maintain. Okay? Do contact MDEQ for staging sites. If you have any need for a temporary site, you need to contact MDEQ. Even if it's not temporary, my suggestion is contact them anyway and let them tell you. You don't have to contact us, just to be on the safe side. Truck certifications, you'll need to certify the truck and the capacity that it carries. It's not a hard thing. We can help you walk through that. Let us know. We can give you the information to do that and help you get it done. Debris monitoring, you have to monitor it. You have to say where it's being picked up. You have to say the quantity. You have to say where it's going. And it has to be dated and documented and pictures taken and all the 9 yards. So monitoring of debris is necessary. If you're going to hire a contractor, that's fine. They're going to know what to do and they can get it knocked out. But you need to monitor your monitor. If you don't monitor, you want to just do it yourself, not hire a a monitoring contractor. That's fine too. You can do it. We'll help you and walk you through how to do that. Activate your pre-position contract if you have one. I don't know if that's going to be necessary in this case, but if you have a pre-position contract for debris removal, we're way past the time you should have contacted them. Get them in gear and let them start working. And bid out debris work beyond 30 days from the storm. Don't stage your debris wherever you want. We go back to the MDEQ, get their blessing, make sure they're okay with wherever you put that debris temporarily. Place debris in unpermitted sites. Do not continue with emergency contacts beyond 30 days and ignore debris monitoring. If you got somebody paid to monitor your debris removal and they say something's not right, listen to them. Go see what's going on with it, okay? Don't just say, oh, I know that's Jim Bob and he doesn't, that's whatever. Go listen to him because we don't need anything jeopardized that's going to take money back from you guys. Moving into category B. Category B, actions taken by applicants before, during, and after disaster to save lives, protect public health and safety, and prevent damage to improved property, including search and rescue, fire and flood fighting, security such as barricades, fencing or law enforcement, and the pushing of debris, not disposal. So this gets a little confusing. I always have one or two questions about that, so let me spend just a second on it. People get confused on when it's debris removal versus when it's just cut and push. So to keep it as simple as I can, look at debris as something that is born and dies, right? Cradle to grave is a term that I first got aware of during Katrina. You had where it was born and you got to where it dies. So the when it's category A debris removal is where you show it where its final resting spot is, where it dies. So if you're picking it up and then taking it to another location and that's where its final resting spot's going to be, that's category A. Now, if you're just going down the roadway and you're cutting and pushing stuff back off of a roadway to open it up for local traffic to start flowing back again, that's category B. So you're pushing it, that's not going to be its final resting place. That makes sense? If it goes to a permanent resting spot, then that's going to be category A. Okay? We're going to start moving into category C through G. This is your permanent work. And this is going to be, eligible permanent work must repair, restore, replace disaster damaged facilities in accordance with regulations, must restore to pre-disaster design, capacity, and function in accordance with applicable codes and standards, must be required as a result of the disaster, and may include cost-effective hazard mitigation measures. Matt and I were talking earlier. Mitigation costs under there's two different ways, and we'll go into more mitigation, but mitigation costs will be covered in this disaster under the PA program. Now, the mitigation was not approved, so we can pay to harden a blown out culvert by mitigation, but if you wanted to get a generator where a generator never was, we don't have that mitigation fund in this disaster. Okay. Starting off with category C, roads and bridges. This is anything that is or own connected to or underneath a road system or a structure. So roads, road surfaces, bases, shoulders, ditches, that would be bridges, the decking, the abutments, wing walls and approaches, and the drainage structures, culverts, and cross drains. So anything above, beyond, below, around, near, connecting to, or supporting the roadway system, this is going to be falling under category C. I know this is going to be a popular one for this disaster. We'll have plenty of category C work. Be ready for a site inspection from FEMA. Be ready to explain what you're going to do. Be ready and have your engineers or your road manager or whoever there to answer these questions, okay? They're going to have lots of them, and we're going to try to work with everybody to keep things moving as quick as humanly possible, but be sure we have all the players involved and ready and prepared to do a lot of this damage identification and explaining. Make sure that road is not a federal aid road. Again, we go back to when I said federal funding cannot replace other federal funding. If it's a federal aid road, FEMA won't touch it. You can go on to a website, and I have the link. I can't tell you the name of it right off the top of my head, but we can help you try to find out if you have a question that's a federal aid road or not. But your road manager should be able to tell you what it is or it isn't. Category D is water control, and this is going to be anything that deals with a dam or any kind of water control facilities. Facility built for the purpose of pumping, draining, or irrigation. Category E is going to be your buildings and contents. So this is where your vehicle is going to come in, your roof systems, your walls of your building, your flooding of a building, whatever the case may be. It also includes the contents. So any contents that you lose is going to fall under category E for replacement. You do have things such as a 50% rule. If everybody agrees that your facility's damage above 50% of what it would cost to repair it, then it could be eligible to be completely reimbursed. It's not an easy road to get that 50% reimbursement. It's unless the building's pretty much gone, 3 walls are down, roof's held up by just a couple of 2x4s, then they'll look at it 50%. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to happen, get the 50% ruling, but it's also not completely unheard of. Codes and standards, you can apply the codes and standards if you do any repair and rebuilding. Equipment in that building can be replaced. Vehicles can be repaired or placed under this, as well as your inventory and supplies, like mentioned before. You will deduct insurance and any kind of salvage, because FEMA funds are the funds of last resort. Everything has got to be thrown against the wall and deducted from that obligated amount before the FEMA funds. We're going to come into that. We'll get into a little more detail about insurance and salvage later on. Category F, that's going back to utilities. Any kind of utility services, water, power, cable, internet, any kind of utility service falls under category F. This is where a lot of our PMPs end up going. and any kind of damages they want to claim for restoration needs to be as a direct result of the event. Category G this is kind of the catch-all. Anything else that doesn't fall into A through F goes through here. It's playgrounds, swimming pools, ball grounds, piers, beaches, so on and so forth. So this is where everything else is going to fall into that we hadn't talked about already. And we'll have lots of piers and bulkheads and things of that nature, playgrounds that got flooded at different parks here with this disaster. Category Z is administrative costs. So everything to include what you're doing right now is it's going to be captured under your administrative costs. So anything that you do to promote, to get move forward and getting anything done for this disaster and the reimbursement expenses falls under Category Z. It's under Section 324, authorizes PA funding for management costs, direct costs, administrative expenses, etc., preliminary damages assessments, meetings regarding the PA program, organizing damages sites into logical groups, and correspondence. Funding is based on actual costs up to a specific amount of 100% federal funding. We mentioned the 75% earlier. This is 100%. So whatever you turn in can get reimbursed under this Category Z program from your time and expenses, but you will have to tell me what times that you worked. And it could be just something as simple as a calendar hanging on the wall, and every time that you spend anything doing with management of this disaster, just put a 4 on the calendar. And at the end of the day, we'll tally up all the 4s, 5s, 2s, 6, whatever you put towards that time, and we'll get your time sheets, we'll get your pay policy and your pay rate and your proof of payment, and it'll go towards this Category Z. It is 100%, so whatever it is obligated at, it'll be paid to you at 100% reimbursement cost, and it is going to max out at 5% of whatever the total amount obligated for you is. So every project A through G works itself out to, oh man, I'm going to have to do math now, $100,000. 10% of $100,000 is $10,000. 5% of that, half of that is $5,000. If my logic is right, and if I'm wrong, just don't correct me. $5,000 is the max that you can get claimed towards your Category Z. Fair enough. If you got questions about it, let me know. But it's pretty straightforward. A through G cost, whatever that obligated amount is, multiply that times 0.1. That's 10. That's 0.05. I saw you look at me. 0.05, and then we'll that's your 5% max. Okay. We can help you with that if there's any confusion going forward, but it's pretty straightforward. Cost eligibility. So this is we've already established that you are an eligible applicant, and then we're looking at that you got eligible facilities, eligible work. Now we're looking at cost. Cost eligibility. To be eligible for reimbursement, costs must be reasonable and necessary to accomplish eligible work. A cost is reasonable if, in nature and amount, it does not exceed that which would be incurred by a prudent person under the circumstances prevailing at the time the applicant makes a decision to incur the cost. So the whole goal is that we don't want it to turn into, well, if FEMA's in town, doesn't matter what the cost is. We'll take whatever. You got to be reasonable about it. Because keeping in mind, this is taxpayer money. So everyone in this room is funding this. Well, we want to or not, we are funding it. And so we need to make sure that we understand that this is our money too. And we're needing to make sure we're good stewards of that money and making sure the costs are the best deal we can get, right? So my favorite line, and what incurred by a prudent person under the same circumstances would do, right? Who's a prudent person? Well, that's open for debate. But at the end of the day, we have got to make sure we're getting the best deal that we can get going forward spending the federal funding. To be eligible for reimbursement, costs must comply with federal, state, and local laws and regulations, authorized and not prohibited under federal, state, territorial, tribal, or local government laws or regulations, consistent with the applicant's internal policy, regulations, and procedures that apply uniformly to both federal awards and other activities of the applicant. So, all that being said, follow your procurement laws. Every one of us here has to follow state laws. If we do that, we'll be in good shape. If this gets into a situation where you have to do a procurement, get your attorney involved. We'll breeze through a procurement slide in here, but it will be literally me reading it word for word. I am not an attorney, don't want to be an attorney. And that's who you need to contact to make sure you're doing your procurements correctly so we don't have that kind of problem, okay? To be eligible for reimbursement, costs must include deduction of insurance proceeds, salvage value, and purchase discounts. I don't want to spend a lot of time because I'll be getting ahead of myself, but we just know we'll talk about it, but it's the last line of defense. Any funding that comes before FEMA needs to be addressed. So different types of eligible costs. We have force account labor. This is the people that work for you. These are the people that work for your agency. Biggest thing to remember in this slide is all cost for your force account labor is included and eligible except for category B. It's only overtime. For A, everything else, A through G, it is, and Z, it is overtime plus, regular time plus overtime. But for category B, it is overtime only. Okay?
What's the idea behind that?
It changed, it used to be A and B, but it changed to A during Sandy recovery, during the Sandy Recovery Act. Why they did it, I really don't know. It was just so overwhelming to cover a lot of that debris. They just made the ruling to do that and it just stopped. They did it under a pilot program and then it just stuck and they kept doing it for them.
You still have to, if you're doing the category A under force account labor, you still have to show all the certifications and.
Yeah, no, you're still going to produce everything. And go further with that. If it's category B, I'm still going to ask you for your regular time, even though you're not getting reimbursed, because I've got to prove that it's overtime. I've got to show the 40 hours being burnt before we kick in time above that, okay? So going further with eligible costs, materials are eligible. So if the costs for items such as applicant's inventory and for items purchased to make authorized repair to meet the scope of work are eligible. This concludes when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick up anything off the shelf and pay it, it's an eligible expense because it's going to work, eligible work. This also includes anything that's coming off your shelves. If you are a water association and you got a meter fell, a tree fell on a meter and you have to replace a meter for whatever reason, and you go pull one off the shelf, put it in there, give me the cost of that meter. I would suggest you give me the cost to replace the meter brand new, because if it's a 20-year-old meter, you paid a lot less than you were going to replace it for. So get a cost for it would be to replace it brand new.
We had a lot of gravel that was already on hand, but we've had to replace, so that's an example
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Chip seal.
Because diesel costs are going up, so you're getting gravel transported. It's going to be more now. So be sure that you're looking ahead of what it's going to be to replace what you're using off your shelf. Applicant-owned equipment. This is also referred to as force account equipment. This is anything that you own that you want to use. You can keep track of those hours. Be mindful that you're going to be asked to let me know who's owning that piece of equipment. Short of a generator, short of a light plant, something that can run without operator daily, hourly usage, I am going to be asking for an operator because a backhoe does not operate by itself. Not now.
Operating equipment hours, not just overtime.
Yeah, we'll need to have who it is that's
Right.
working that
But
piece of
only the
equipment.
equipment at that point would be like under category B. Under category B, if they're using the equipment during a normal, like if they didn't get overtime, that means.
No,
that-
That's another reason they want the regular time, is
Yeah.
if it's an
Right,
operator on
because the
regular time.
equipment is.
Yeah, but we're not going to pay for that regular time under
No,
category B.
Right.
Right.
you gotta-
But I can pay for the equipment.
So it's not equipment only under the overtime hours?
No. It's every hour.
Make sure.
Every hour that piece of equipment is doing eligible work.
Right.
Okay? There is no overtime for a piece of equipment.
I know.
It runs 24 hours a day. Operator. Now you can put 2 operators on it and working 12-hour shifts and covering 24 hours, right? And that would be eligible, but no. It's everything. It's that piece. Every hour that Hobbs meter turns over on that piece of equipment is going to be eligible. Okay. And then we'll take those hours, we'll bounce it against the cost code rates, the government cost code rates. per the hourly usage, and then we'll multiply that to get your cost that you can claim. Keep in mind that hourly rate on that cost code sheet is wet time. That is including fuel, maintenance, everything else. So we've had applicants turn in the hourly usage plus diesel cost. We've had to back the diesel cost up because that hourly usage is encompassing of a wet rate, if you will, for everything needed to operate that piece of equipment. Contracts, obviously, contracts are obviously going to be eligible. We go back to procurement, be sure that's done correctly, and we're going to ask for bids, your bid tabs. We're going to ask for your advertising. We're going to ask for everything that justifies and makes it eligible or legal for as far as proper procurement goes, and then we'll be able to pay on your contract. Rental equipment is eligible, and we run into this, and the question comes up a lot. If I get a bulldozer, if I get an excavator, if I get something and I need to use it 3 hours this day, on the first part of the job being done, and then on the Friday, 5 days later, I'm having to use it, another 3 hours. Am I only claiming it for those 3 hours? No. If you have to have that piece of equipment there for whatever reason, whatever that contract is, it's there. So it costs less to keep it from being picked up and dropped off and picked up and dropped off. Now, I'm going to start getting a little heartburn if you keep it for 60 days and use it 3 times. That's going to give me a little heartburn, but for the most part, no. You rent the piece of equipment, it comes to property, you use it, and for eligible work, and you get it covered, okay? So types of projects. I want to kind of break this down a little bit more, but we have small projects, large projects, and then from then we have improved projects and alternate projects. So there's thresholds for projects. That's going to be what differentiates a small project from a large project. Just keep in mind it's about $1 million. It's $1,100,000, $1,096,000. That if it goes over that, it's considered a large project. We'll get into the details of what a large and small project are. But for the definition here, public assistance projects processed is either a small or a large project. If the project cost is less than the large project threshold, the project is processed as a small project. If the project cost equals or exceeds the large project threshold, the project is processed as a large project. So, a small project funding is based on work completed if available, our initial cost estimate. Federal cost share is paid as soon as practical based on complexity of the project. Again, we go back to the bean counters and how quickly we can get that processed. And when the cost of work is less than $4,100, that work is not eligible. So for a project work sheet to be written, it has to exceed $4,100.
So that increased. It was 38, so now we're at 41.
We was at 39, yet increased about a year ago. 41. And it does, and every once in a while, that incrementally goes up, but $4,100 for this disaster.
So the idea of the small projects, when they changed that threshold, was to push more projects through that small project, I guess, workload or process. I think the initial funding was given before the work was started. Is that still? Can you sort of
No, to a certain degree, we can release a little bit, possibly, but it goes incrementally. It's still a reimbursement process because it falls under us. At the end of the day, FEMA releases the funds to the state, so the state's going to be under the hook for auditing purposes that we have to justify how we spend the money at the state level. So it falls back under us. It was a administrative cost, administrative burden reduction for FEMA.
And it could be based
For
on
FEMA, it was the only person that paid.
It's based on actuals, right?
Sorry.
It'll be based on actuals.
Correct.
Okay.
Up to a certain point, we want actuals, but if it's a small project and being a good steward of tax funds, our funds, right, you come in less and small, they're not going to change it. They're not going to reduce anything. So if you spend less and complete the scope of work and you have money left over, say you have $25,000 that you have left over, nobody's going to claw that back from you. I am going to ask you to give me a letter on letterhead saying $25,000 is left over from this project, and we choose to, or we intend to buy Yeah, you know, to buy,
Mike letters, if you need one, I got plenty. Call them Dear Mike letters.
So if you have, say, two roads, and one road's here and the other road's half a mile up the road, you spend a day, say you spent, $3,000 on road A, and then the same day you went up the road and spent $4,000 on road B, would both of those be included as one project together?
it could be, if it's all in one scope, one project worksheet. So it's a logical grouping at that point.
I got you.
If it's, both of them are affected in the storm, then we can capture all that in one project. We can capture every road in the county in one project. We can break it down into districts, and every district has its own project worksheet for roads. We can break it up, whatever makes the most sense.
Okay.
We don't want to write one pre-W for every road. That gets to be back to the administrative burden.
Yeah.
But we can chunk it up and make an agreement, with everybody, FEMA, you, and say we want to do it by district so we can keep up with it, but for the budget, or we should want to do it one for the whole county. Okay. Moving on to large projects, initially approved on cost estimates. Funding is based on documented actual costs, and funding, the federal cost share is paid as work is accomplished. So what this is saying in a nutshell is they're going to approve it. Sometimes it can be done on actual cost, or sometimes it's done on estimate. Once you start the work and get the work completed, it's going to go back through a FEMA review. Why is that a problem? Why is that, could provide some heartburn? Is because another set of eyes, completely different from the ones that looked at it before, are going to look at it. And they may find something different. Oh, wait a minute, this isn't eligible. Well, the other gentleman with FEMA said it was eligible. Yeah, well, he shouldn't have, it's not eligible. They're clawing money back. So that's why we're real careful on what we give out. We don't want to get too far over our skis, because we may see something, or we know FEMA, and we know things that could go awry during this final processing, and we don't want to be that debt collector. I never want any of the MEMA staff to be a debt collector and having to call them trying to rake money back. That's a bad day, because we may pay y'all in 3 budget years ago, and now we're going to come and ask you for $150,000 out of the blue on a brand new budget year that you weren't planning for that burden, right? That's the last thing we want to do. So we want to be really sure when we make a payment that's going to stay in the general funds. Okay.
Can you sort of speak on, I know one of the biggest headaches was the initially approved based on estimated costs and these theoretical costs that we're coming back with. And I know they use RS means to do all their numbers. What's a good process that you've seen work where it's like, hey, we've got actual bid tabs for this project, right? Maybe we hold off on signing off on a contract for 90 days or 120 days after we bid the project and say, hey, these are going to be, here's your bid tabulations on these costs. Does that work, Mike? Or like what's...
Theoretically, yes. Theoretically, if you're going by with the scope of work and it is following the scope of the project worksheet, the agreed upon scope of work, and you bid it out, and then we're saying this is the lowest bidder by bidding it out and taking the lowest bidder or the best bidder. I don't want to put it into one corner. Lowest or best bidder, that should be for all practical purposes.
Well, the headache is getting to the obligated PW there, right? Like that was always the challenge. Like, no, we don't agree with this price. And really, it really came into play when it was at that $1 million threshold between a small project and then a large project. We were always trying to get the large project
Sure.
that pays actuals, right?
Right.
Even though it's a reimbursement base. But how can we expedite that instead of going back and forth for months at a time? Like, no, FEMA, we don't agree with your estimate. Here's our estimate based on a engineer OPC.
I don't know if there is a good answer to your question, because we're just dealing with different people, different personalities, different way they're looking at things, and different locations. I know we had a lot of problems with location being weird because somebody stuck in middle America doesn't quite understand why we can't go to Lowe's and buy something to put out in a marine environment, right? Or why we need a barge. It's examples, right? I've got to go for them practical. But let's talk about that in a little bit if we can, and we'll get into some more details about it. But at the going by the general rule of thumb is if it's in the scope of work, it's eligible, okay? go forth and do what you can to complete that scope of work. And then if you have any questions, concerns, we can follow up. We can send our questions, concerns to FEMA for immediate answers then and there, or we can go forward and do it and just kind of do it at closeout and see where we're at. We're happy to talk about any of the specifics about any projects with you guys in detail, but the general rule of thumb is that if you complete the scope of work as written and agreed on by FEMA, yourself and us, that you should be in good shape. Okay? Improved projects. We talked about improved projects. Applicant performing restoration work on damaged facility may use the opportunity to make improvements to the facility while restoring the facility to its pre-disaster function. The improvements must be approved by the state prior to construction, may require a FEMA environmental historical assessment. The applicant is responsible for the cost of the improvements. Federal funding is limited to the cost of restoration. So, in this example, we had a school that was damaged, and for whatever reason, that school is not needed. So you're in a county, and the population has declined to the point where you don't need an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. You can combine elementary and middle school and have a high school, and then you don't need this building anymore. It would be better served to have a bigger middle school and elementary school. So you want to increase the footprint and make it a bigger facility. You can do that, and FEMA's going to say to repair or replace that's going to be X. That's what it would be the cost of, and then you can apply X to build whatever you want, but it's only going to pay up to X. So anything it costs above X is going to be your responsibility to find other funds, whether it's your own funds or you have other funding sources from other kinds. So that's the way to do that, but you need to be sure to identify it, let us know about it, let us approve it, and we may have to, if you're turning dirt, which if you're increasing the footprint, you're turning dirt, we may have to get environmental historical involved in it, okay? Alternate projects are something that when a restoration of a damaged facility or function does not serve the public welfare, an applicant may use a public assistance grant for another public facility. The alternate project must be approved by FEMA prior to construction. So this one's different because FEMA's got to approve it, and a request for the alternate project must be made with 12 months of the recovery scoping meeting. So you have 1 year to decide what you're going to do. In this example, same building, whatever reason you're not going to replace it, you're wanting to do something else with that funding, you're going to take X, like we talked about earlier. They're going to designate a value to repair or replace, and then you say, I don't need that building, but I do need new buses. So you can take that funding, and this is an example. You can do whatever you choose as long as it's approved. You can take the funds that would repair or replace that facility and move it to the replacement, replacing new buses or buying new buses. Okay? You need to identify it early and let us know so we can all agree on it. But the alternate project may require an environmental assessment like an improved project. But the biggest kicker on this, federal funding is limited to 95% of the 75. So whatever that 75 is, it's going to kick it back down to 90% of 75. Now we're all thoroughly confused. That is going to be a kicker to doing an alternate project. P&Ps again utilize traditional alternative project program. Peer to performance. So FEMA is kind of, they're wanting to push to get things done faster, get things, work done faster, get money paid faster, get all this done faster. Well, they were starting to look at all kind of different ways how they can do this by making new laws and policy and this and that. And somebody said, hey, you know what? We've got law, we got policy that says we can do it faster. Let's just implement it. Let's start using it. So what was a real kind of wishy-washy, hey, I'll get it done in 6 months. And we got it done in 8. Oh, it's okay. It's fine. They're getting hard. They're getting hard on it. And they're saying, nope, we told you here, you didn't get it done here. You can't give me a good reason why you didn't get it done here. They're cutting it off. So whatever work you haven't done, they're going to remove that amount of money that they put towards that work, and it's coming back. It's getting clawed back from you. Unless you get an extension. We'll get into extensions in a minute. But I'm just scaring you now. I'm trying to put the scare in it. Get the work done. Okay? If we get to that point, we're having to let somebody else dictate our, outside of Mississippi dictate our future, it just gets a little worrisome to me. Let's stay in our state. Let's get it done as quick as we humanly possibly can. The normal time frames for work is emergency work must be completed within 6 months. 6 months from when? 6 months from declaration. So that's when the emergency work should be done. All your Cat A and Cat B. I think we can safely say all Cat B work is done, right? Cat A is next. So if you have any debris that you need to pick up, let's make sure we're getting that taken care of pretty quickly. So permanent work is 18 months. Any kind of permanent work you need to get done needs to be done within 18 months. Now remember, I said a minute ago that I want to keep all control within our state. We don't want to give anybody outside the state of Mississippi control of our time frames and things like that. The state, can grant you extensions. For category A and B, I can grant a 6-month extension. That gives us 12 months by staying in control of those in the state of Mississippi. 12 months for category A and B, and additional 30 months for category C through G. So 30 plus 18 is 48, 4 years for permanent work, and that stays in control of us before we have to go out and start asking for time extension from somebody else, okay? So those are the biggest numbers I want to keep in mind. Get the work done, A and B, in 12 months or less. Get C through G work done within 4 years.
Mike, those dates, when do they start? When do
At
they,
the declaration date.
at the declaration, okay.
Yeah. The regional administrator may increase these time extensions on a case-by-case basis. That's what we talked about. It becomes out of our control. Anybody from the state of Mississippi has got to go to the region for them to approve it. If a deadline of any project has been reached without an approved time extension, no cost past that timeline date will be eligible for funding. Special considerations. This is one that I want everybody to be real eyes open on, because there's a lot of things in here that can hurt us that we're not looking at. Special considerations are issues other than the program eligibility that could affect the scope of work and funding of a project. This could be insurance, this could be hazard mitigation, environmental protection, floodplain management, and historical preservation and cultural resources, and we'll go into each one in a little more detail. Insurance. So we had mentioned on category E that insurance will be reduced. And it could be reduced from anything. If it's on category A, you may have damages, insurance to cover some of your debris removal costs. Insurance has to be looked at for every project, and if you have an insurable right for funding through your company, they are expected to pay. FEMA has insurance specialists, and they will look at each policy, and they will look at your damages, and they will look at the policy, and they will come up with a number that they feel your policy should cover. And when they first obligate that, they will either take that number that they say they should cover, or whatever you did get from your provider, and reduce the federal funding down, less that insurance, and they'll take that insurance out. As a taxpayer, I get it, right? We understand that. I don't want you to, take money that your insurance should be providing and taking my tax dollars. You will have to prove, and if your insurance says, no, we should pay you $1 million, but we're going to settle with you for $500,000. You have to go for the $1 million. You're going to have to prove to FEMA what steps you took to get what you're legally eligible to get from your insurance provider. And where this comes from is they don't want anybody to ever think, oh, you know what, yeah, I'll take $500,000 because FEMA's here and they're going to cover the delta. They don't want that to happen, and I don't want that to happen. That doesn't make any sense. They want you to push for everything that you can get, like that's all you were going to get. Okay, and then once you get to the point and you receive the funding from your insurance provider, FEMA, their specialists again will look at it and say, okay, I can see where the difference is, or it comes up to what they should pay or what they feel like they should pay. Long story short, you will have to go, if it's insurable property, you will have to get something from your insurance provider. You will have to file a claim. If they deny it, we'll have to have a denial letter. If they pay it, we'll have to have that. And if they don't pay it for whatever reason, we'll have to have that as well. Okay? But that's going to come off. It's going to be factored into it. This is going to be a flooding event. So for flood damage facilities located within a special flood hazard area, they are not covered by flood insurance. Federal assistance will be reduced by the maximum flood insurance proceeds that would have been available for if the facility would have been insured, if insurable. There are, and again, this is something that as a taxpayer I get and I understand, and I'm glad they do it. FEMA's goal is to pay for something once and not have to come back and pay for it again. That's why we got hazard mitigation. They want to harden it so we're not back there doing the same thing, replacing that same road or doing whatever. If they can harden it, they're going to try to harden it. Well, also with insurance, they're going to require you to put insurance on it. If you get $100,000 to repair a building that's insurable, they're going to require you from that point forward to keep at a minimum $100,000 worth of insurance on that facility. That's protecting the money they've already given you, protecting our money that we're spending to repair or replace this facility. They're going to require you to do that. Okay? If for some reason you do not keep insurance, the next event comes along, that's the first thing they're going to say is you have an insurance obtain and maintain order on this that we told you had to keep it. You let it lapse. Y'all have a good day. And that's it. That's all they're going to talk about. You didn't maintain your end of it. Now, if it was a repair and it's $100,000 and you got $500,000, it's a little different. They're just going to deduct it by what you should have gotten. They're not going to give it to you twice. They will reduce it by that $100,000 and move on with life. But you have got to maintain insurance on that facility if you're instructed to do so within your project worksheet. And we'll let you know. You're going to have to sign off. No, there's a sheet of paper that I know, obtain and maintain. I've got to obtain and maintain. So there won't be any question if you have to or not. We talked about hazard mitigation very briefly. There's two different types of hazard mitigation, 404 and 406. 406 is a public assistance hazard mitigation. 404 is mitigation money that is given to the state by the federal government, and they can use to strengthen our state for future events. And it doesn't have to be affected by a disaster. But our mitigation money, 406, it has to be affected by the disaster. For example, if you got lost 2 windows in your building and you had 6, only 2 windows are eligible to be hardened, to have double paned or windproofed or reglazed or whatever to make it harder structure that will withstand that another event. All 4 is on you. Now, it has, and in our example here, it's a roadway with a culvert. Well, it's just a regular corrugated, I'm assuming, culvert here, and after the flood event, it goes, the culvert blows out from whatever method it gets blown out by, and it leaves a big gap in the roadway. So 406 can come in and say, hey, listen, we don't want to pay for this over and over and over again. Let's come back. We're going to put concrete wing walls and concrete box cover in there to increase its capacity, let stuff flow through there better. That way we won't have to come back and replace and repair all this road structure again. So that's 406 and how it can be utilized. Always keep that in mind if you're looking at roads and trying to figure out ways to make things, whether they'll withstand another event, that these options are looked at. They will consider them up to 100% more to replace in 406, but there's guys with slide rulers and they come figure out all the details and the math on that, and they can tell you whether it's eligible or not. But if you see something in your community that can be better due to 406 mitigation, be sure you're bringing that up. Environmental historical preservation and compliance. This is something that's real important, especially down in our area because it's so historically significant. All FEMA funding projects must comply with a variety of EHP laws and regulatory executive orders. EHP review is done prior to funding to ensure compliance with applicable federal laws. EHP review is a collaboration between FEMA, state applicants, tribal entities, and local organizations in construction of new facilities, alternate projects, modification, expansions, or mitigation of existing facilities may require more of an extensive EHP review. Take this one seriously. If you're turning over dirt, if you stick a shovel in the ground turning over dirt, FEMA may want you to have an EHP review because we are in a significant historical area. They don't want to disturb any kind of burial sites. They don't want to disturb any kind of sites that may have significant artifacts in it. So They do not want you to go into a site that could inadvertently affect negatively wildlife in that area, especially if it's a endangered species. So they're going to be really involved in this, and if you want things to come to a screeching stop, get EHP and find something that they don't like. If it's going to affect our history or our nature in an adverse way, it will come to a stop. So be mindful that this is something that could happen, and if you see something, let your state representative that's working with you know that you are going to be turning new dirt in an area, or you'll be working in an area that it may have some significant impact on the environment. Furthermore, with environmental protection, to ensure all practical means are used to protect, restore, and enhance the environment, FEMA projects must comply with all applicable laws and regulations, including the National Environmental Policy Act, the Magnuson-Stevens Act, Endangered Species Act, Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, and the 44 CFR Parts 9 and 10. Floodplains and wetland management. Any project within or affected the floodplains or wetlands must be reviewed to ensure that it meets the requirements of several federal laws and executive orders. Those executive orders are EO 11988, floodplain management, EO 11990, protection of wetlands, and the Clean Water Act. Historic and preservation and cultural resources. The Natural Historic Preservation Act requires FEMA grantees and applicants to assess potential effects to historical and cultural resources, such as historical buildings, structures, districts, archaeological and tribal sites, and objects and artifacts. FEMA, the state, and the applicant must work together. Preservation issue before approval of funding for public assistance projects. May require consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office, also known as SHPO, Tribal Historical Preservation Office, the Advisory Council of Historic Preservation. Record keeping. Used to be a big deal back in Katrina days. Everything was in paper, so we always had to keep it and have these big, huge banker boxes stored everywhere. Nowadays, with all of our data online services, we pretty much can keep all that done through that. You will be working, you'll see more here about it in a minute, through the federal database, which is Grants Portal. You'll have a lot of information, all of your information uploaded into that. Mississippi MEMA also has a database that information can be uploaded to as well. If you want to use any one of those or both or all or your own, doesn't matter, be sure to maintain your records. If you still want to keep paper, good luck to you. Do that, whatever works for you, but know that there are other options. But you are going to be required to maintain all records 3 years after the applicant closeout. So we'll talk about documentation really quick. Force count labor, force count equipment, materials, and rented and contracts. Force count labor, we went over to that. Things we're going to need with force count labor is the payroll policy prior to the disaster, what your payroll policy is, applicant's benefit calculation worksheet, applicant's complete employee list, should include employees' rates and whether they're exempt or non-exempt, timesheet and payroll records, and copies of canceled checks or proof of direct deposits. Force account equipment, applicant's equipment listing, equipment documentation sheets, employee's timesheet reflecting equipment operating time, date of use, FEMA schedule of equipment rates. Force account material summary records, applicant's materials inventory list dated prior to disaster, materials requisition sheets if available, and invoices for materials purchased and put into inventory and copies of checks paying those invoices. Again, we talked about that earlier. I would suggest let's look at what it would cost to replace it on your shelf again. Procurement, I told you I was going to breeze through this. Call your lawyer. Get them involved. Do not want to say one thing that could contradict anything that may do you wrong, because I'm not a lawyer. Contact your lawyer, be good, and make sure you're following all state procurement laws on this. Renting equipment, copies of the signed rental agreement, invoices and proof of payment, and appeals. So if there is something that FEMA says or puts in that project worksheet that you do not agree with, or a decision that they make that you do not agree with, they're going to issue what's called a determination memo, or you may hear it referred to as a DEM. That DEM is their official ruling on this matter, and from when you get that DEM and you decide that you just don't agree with it, you can appeal that decision to see if you can get it overturned. Now, you have two opportunities to appeal and one to arbitrate, so bear with me a second. The first appeal, once you get that DEM, you have 60 days to look at that appeal, make a determination what you're going to do, and then you're going to have to provide evidence and documentation, as well as a narrative to figure out why, or try to convince someone why that this should be an eligible expense. You have 60 days from when you receive that DEM. When we have record that you have gotten that DEM, you have 60 days to get that documentation, that supporting information to FEMA, to us, so we can look at it. And then from that point, from when you give it to me, I have 60 days to respond to FEMA. And we're going to support you. There's times where I may not agree with you, but we're not there. We're going to support you in your decisions that you want to make. If you want to argue that this is eligible when FEMA says it's not, I don't care what it is. I'm going to send it to FEMA. We're your advocates in this, so don't ever think we're going to. Now, I may call you and say, hey, maybe you can strengthen it this way, or somebody from our office can call you and say, we can add this kind of information to make your case a little better. But we're going to support you in moving that forward. That first appeal is going to go to Atlanta for Region 4. They're going to make a decision on it, and then they're going to provide a determination on that decision. It says there they have 90 days to give you that decision. I have never seen it done in 90 days. That's not true. I have seen it done in 90 days, but rarely do I ever see it done in 90 days. They have the gold. They can do what they want.
I haven't had one done in under 365.
So there you go. Yeah. So we'll move past the 90 days. So when we get a decision from that appeal, we all forward into them from the regional level, and we get it back and it's denied or partially denied. We still have avenues. You can go from that point, you can go to a second appeal or another route, but we'll go with the second appeal right now. We can go to the second appeal, same timeline plays in effect. As soon as you get that decision, you got 60 days to make a story, get your narrative, get your supporting documentation. It really needs to change. We don't need to cut and paste the old appeal and put it forward. We need to strengthen the first appeal somehow, some way, some shape, form, or fashion to send it to the second appeal route. But you'll have 60 days to get it to me. I have 60 days to get it to FEMA. But I don't send it to region. I send it straight to the headquarters. It goes to Washington for a second appeal, and then we won't even talk about the 90 days anymore. But they will give us a decision on that. Now, if you go second appeal and you get a decision on that, it's over with. Whether you get it or you don't, or you get it in partial, you don't, whatever the case is. After that second appeal, it's not up for discussion anymore. It's over. Now, I said there was another avenue after the first appeal determination. There's another avenue you can go, and that's arbitration. You can go to arbitration, and that's when it goes to a panel of federal judges. There's a pool of federal judges that they will pull from, and they will get 3 federal judges, and it's basically a court, moot court, if you will, or however that you will sit, and the state will have an opportunity, you will have an opportunity, and FEMA will have an opportunity to present the case and why it should be eligible. And then once that's completed, it may take 1 day, it may take 3, it may take 2 weeks, whatever the scope and size of the matter you're discussing. Once that's done, and when they come back and make their decision, that's final as well. I think everybody in this business can give you an opinion whether you should go second appeal, whether you should go to arbitration. It really comes down to circumstances. So you can discuss it with us. If you go to arbitration, or you really go to second appeal, you might wanting to get your attorney involved in at that point in time, or an attorney involved. There's specialists that do this, and they might want to walk it through with him and see what they think your best method is to get a positive outcome on it. Okay? So what you get out of this is the 60 days. You have 60 days to get the information to me, which I have 60 days to get it to FEMA. The first one goes to the regional administrator, and the second appeal goes to headquarters in Washington for determination. Time limits. I told in the beginning of this, I gave a deadline of when the RPA has to be submitted. That's 30 days from the date of the declaration. So that's one of our first time limits we're going to talk about. 30 days, you have to get it in. I'm begging y'all to go ahead and get it in now. I'm expecting everybody in this room to go ahead and get it in now, so we can get that moving forward and get you counted on this disaster. Applicant must submit all damages within 60 days of a recovery scoping meeting. First meeting that you'll have with FEMA is going to be, typically speaking, is going to be the recovery scoping meeting. So when that date of that meeting, 60 days from there, you have to list all your damaged inventory to be accounted for or addressed in this disaster, and then project worksheets, future project worksheets. So just keep those in mind. We talked about Sandy Recovery Act just a minute ago. Biggest changes that came from that is we added straight time to force account labor on category A, and applicant can retain earnings from recycling. So if you were to chip and sell it to, which I don't really suggest doing it because a lot of testing involved, but for example purposes, if you wanted to chip up all your debris and you're going to sell it to a park or whatever, landscape company to put out as mulch, that whatever you sell it to them, you can retain that. Permanent work in section 428. So this is grants based on estimates. Cost overrun absorbed by applicant. Underrun can be used by applicant for specific mitigation uses. So it just goes back to essentially an approved project or an alternate project. You can lump multiple projects together to do one thing. So, for example, there was an applicant that lost several buildings. They decided they weren't going to replace those buildings, but what they could really use is a new EOC and a distribution center. So they're building a brand new EOC and a distribution center using alternate funds from those facilities. They are not going to repair or replace. These, in fact, were replaced. They're not going to replace these facilities. They're going to build one big building to support their emergency management as well as a distribution center during a time of an emergency when they're trying to get commodities out to the general public. Okay? So there's options out there. Just take from this is if you have questions, you have concerns, if you think, hey, I might be able to do this and it would serve my community better, come get us. Let's talk. Let's sit down. Let's put it all out on a big whiteboard and see what works out best for you guys and how we can help you get there. Grants portal, I mentioned that a little while ago. This is going to be where everything is going to go through. This is what FEMA utilizes for everything. And this is for transparency. You can see that project as it's moving through the system through its lifespan. So whoever's hand it is, you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to get all the information that FEMA's got on it. And this is where you can upload all your documentation to support your claims. All of your communications as well as your scheduling is done through this. So every time you schedule a meeting with FEMA, they're going to put it in this, and then you'll have it logged into here, and you'll get automated emails about upcoming meetings and such and so on and so forth. As mentioned before, the state also has a database that we've had forever, and you're welcome to use it. You're welcome to upload stuff, but it's great if you do upload in Grants Portal and into ours, but I will never ask you to duplicate work. So that being said, if you have to, if you're on time crunch and whatever the case may be, and you want to upload it one place, one time, Grants Portal is where you need to go because that's where the people who control the gold, that's what they monitor. And I'm not going to force you to upload something twice. I can get in there and look at it just as well as you can, whether in whichever database works. But this is going to be the primary, but you're welcome to use ours as much as you would like. If you don't have access to Grants Portal, let us know, and then we can get you lined up on Grants Portal. How to submit an RPA, you go to Grants Portal, essentially. Typically, you'll see a big banner up there. I think I've got it on a slide. Nope. There'll be a big banner on top of it when you log in. You know, if you're in a declared disaster area, do you want to submit an RPA? You hit it, it takes literally 60 seconds. It doesn't take that long to get knocked out. Most of the information is auto-populated from your information you've already got in there from before. So it doesn't take any time at all. Please knock it out, even if you don't think you will, but might. go ahead and submit. We can always take you out, off the, out of the system quick and easy, but it's harder to get you in late than it is to get you out. You'll be prompted to do everything that you need to do, but if you do have any questions, you can give us a call. If for some reason that banner's not there, you can go under your profile, and then you, at the applicant eligible profile, look over to the right, and then you'll see where you can click onto it and go from there. But all in all, if you don't see the big banner, call us, and we'll walk you through anything that you need to do. If push comes to shove and it's at the last hour and you forgot, you can let us know, and we can submit one on your behalf. But I love to make sure that y'all have the opportunity to be your own drivers, if you will, and do everything that y'all can do on your own. So try to do it on your own. If you have stumbling blocks, let us know. But one way or the other, if you'll be in communication with us, we'll get you in. Again, if you don't have a grants portal account, let us know. We'll get that information to you. Some things such as tax ID, DUNS number, point of contact, position, phone number, that stuff's going to be need to be available once we get started. Once the RPA is approved, you'll be contacted by a program delivery manager. That's PDMG. It's FEMA personnel that's going to be walking you through this, and from either MEMA or FEMA to initiate several meetings. We'll start off with that recovery scoping meeting and go from there. Who should the applicant agent be? It may not be, I'm going to pick on you, Matt. Matt may not be the person that's best suited for this. It may be the road manager. It may be the county administrator. There's several people that may be a better fit for them to be it, because they've got all the invoicing. They got better access to the checks and proof of payments, timesheets and records. They will know how to get the fringe benefit information that we need. So, Matt's great at his job and knows what he's doing, but he knows the emergency management side of it, maybe not the financial side so much. So it may not be Matt. It may be somebody else. Sorry, Matt, didn't mean to pick on you. That's the more responsible or the more appropriate person to be doing this. It also needs to be somebody that's got the bandwidth to do it. Some people are just wearing too many hats. They're the floodplain administrator, the emergency management, the dog catcher, they're everything. So it may not be that person that has the time to do that. So find out where it makes the most sense. Get that person engaged, and it may be a couple of people. And you do have an option so you can put a primary and an alternate. So if it is multiple people,
What about if you got a contract?
I would prefer. I don't like contractors being the primary, because they may not be here. 6 months they may be gone. I want somebody that's got skin in the game. I want an employee of. But you can put them in the secondary. Everything you sign off on finalizing is going to have to be the primary. Like anything you do with me, like closeouts, like amendments, final inspections, anything like that. I want the primary, the person with that skin in the game. I just don't want people just to blindly give faith into some people. Some of them are great. I got no problems with, but I just don't. I don't want to give that much control outside of who've got skin in the game.
Mike, we still got a project open. Can we have two different primary applicant agents, one for the existing project and one for this project though too? Is that something like
Two different projects, two different
on a
applicants.
different DR? Yes.
No, different DR, yes. You can have two different DRs.
Okay.
But whoever you assign to 4930 is assigned to 4930.
Okay.
Whoever's assigned to whatever other disaster you're talking about, they're assigned to that. No, you can't pick and choose who works on what projects.
Well, sorry, DR.
Yeah.
If that person retires, for example, you can designate a new.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we'll get with you. A little bit of paperwork, and then we'll change some stuff around in the databases to make sure that the authorization is done.
This question, can we go ahead and appoint an applicant? Reason being, I have a board meeting on Tuesday. Can we go ahead as the same form for y'all?
Yeah.
So just use the same form, designate applicant, go
What
ahead
you
and
fill
approve.
in, what you fill in and what you say in the board minutes, instead of saying whatever old disaster you were talking about. Make sure in the board minutes it's saying 4930. Okay. All right. So some of the qualities that person that you choose to represent you should understand program elements, familiar with a computer, well organized, and readily available. Again, we get back to bandwidth. Can they really hold up and take on another job? This is going to be, for a little while, it's going to be very demanding on your time. That goes back to the bandwidth and who you choose. So there's going to be a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations, a lot of site inspections, a lot of moving parts in this. So make sure they have the time to commit to it. Pace and priority, you are going to be pushed, and you're going to feel like somebody's bugging you to death. Well, in fact, they are. And it is what it is. We're trying to get in and out of here. We're trying to get the projects written or identified, all the damages, the cost identified, and get it obligated so we can start doing some work and start making some payments on reimbursable cost, so we can all get about our life and hopefully be done before the next event comes around. So you're going to be pushed pretty hard. So the Public Assistance Program assists in the restoration of community infrastructure as a supplemental cost reimbursement. I said it twice, must be important, right? Please understand, we'll do the best we can to get you funding to you, but it is a reimbursement program. With that, I appreciate your time.